and welcome to a postdoc rant, I suppose. I'm Iris and I am a postdoc, and today I need to talk to you about publication costs. So, as you may have seen from my previous videos, I recently published a paper, which is such exciting news. But the important thing is, for me at least, that I am the first author, which means I kind of have the responsibility to do the administrative things. Or it means that you have written the paper and nobody else has contributed. But in this case, it was an actual team effort, so I mainly just do the administration. What does the administration entail? If you are unaware, publishing a scientific article is a really long road. In our case, we started talking about this paper in May 2020. Then we wrote it over the summer and fall, because it took a while. And then we first submitted it in December 2020. So actually that has been like the fastest paper I've ever worked on. But we submitted it to Nature Communications because we were very enthusiastic. It was very swiftly rejected because it was way too long for the format. Fair enough, we knew that. But we wanted to give it a shot, okay? And then in February 2021, we submitted it to Solid Earth, and then the review process just took a really long time. I mean, it's a really long paper, so the reviewers took a lot of time to read it. We then took a lot of time to incorporate their comments. We had 2 rounds of revision, so like it took a while, but eventually, I guess in February 2022, our paper was accepted, and then I needed to do the proofs. This is where my role as first author comes in. It's accepted in the journal, it gets sent off to the copy editor and the typesetter, so it's made to look all pretty, like it is supposed to go into the journal, and then I get it back and have to read it, and I have to answer any questions of things that were unclear or inconsistent, and I need to make sure everything is correct. We had 4 rounds of those, at which point I couldn't look at the paper anymore. I was just like, yeah, fine, whatever changes you made, I'm happy with it, just publish the damn thing already. And it happened, it was published. However, it's only at this point that the publication costs become a thing. Academia has for some reason decided that, unlike any other profession, if you spend a lot of your time researching and writing something and then give it to a journal who will publish it, instead of selling it to the journal so that you get money for the work you did, which they are publishing, you pay for it. You give additional money. And we don't ever get anything back. So that is just great. And we got a bill. Just for funsies, I asked my parents what they thought that it would cost. And I will ask you the same thing. How much do you think this paper costs? It is quite a long paper, I have to admit. It's I don't even remember, maybe 30, 40 pages. I have no idea. It's very long for a scientific paper. I mean, it's a review paper, so what did you expect? So what do you think? How much does that cost? My parents thought maybe 200-300 euros, you know, as a contribution towards publishing it. And no, it costs 77 euros per page, which means that our paper costs 5,000 euros. Obviously, I am not going to pay that myself. That literally is over 2 months' salary. Crazy. The way we did it was that we knew it would be expensive, and we knew we were all poor, like all co-authors, because we were just doing this because we wanted to do this and there was no project paying us to do it. So we kind of thought ahead that maybe it will be difficult to come by the funds. So what we did way back in February 2021 was say, please, can we publish for free because we are very poor and we don't have funds to publish. The people from the journal saw that and they said, okay, that makes sense, but you're all working at like really good institutes, so you must be able to find some funds somewhere. We'll give you a 50% discount. So that means the bill that I received was 2,500 euros, which is still ridiculous. And then I had to figure out where to get the funds from. because, like I said, no one had paid us to do this. This was our own thing. There was no project funds we could fall back on. So we are with 6 co-authors. I asked around, like, who has some funds to contribute lying around? You know, if we split it by 6, it might be doable for each of us. Turns out there were 5 co-authors that had some funds lying around somewhere. And I felt like I should also contribute because I'm the first author. So I was like, I'll find some funds. You know, this is my paper. Somehow. So I said, okay, dear journal, split it in 5, will be grand. And then I had to find my part of the funds. And since I had written most of this paper, like 80%, when I was a postdoc at the University of Leeds, I thought this is their chance to be like, hey, you worked on this, here you have like 500 euros to spend on a paper that has their name on it. They can count this for their research output. And it's a really good paper. So I felt like I deserved something. And it's not even for me, it's to pay a journal. So I asked Leeds, and they quickly got back to me saying, we do not have any funds. For some reason, we hired you to publish papers, but we will not pay for any of those papers. Which I think is weird, like someone clearly did not think this scheme through. I kind of went to my backup plan, which is DLR, the German Aerospace Center, where I'm working at the moment. And since I spent quite a lot of time while working here on the revisions, I thought, you know, I'll add them as an affiliation. They can also use it towards their research output. Then I started asking around and they were like, this is very difficult. So that was great. However, eventually it transpired that if I add DLR as an official affiliation, then they have some kind of deal between the journal and DLR, and they can just magically pay up to 2,000 euros. So I had added DLR as an official affiliation, only I had done it at like a really late stage, which is maybe why it wasn't picked up by the library. But in the end, after a lot of emailing back and forth, like we're talking weeks, months here, for a bill of something that is already published. Like, what would they do if I didn't pay it? Would they just retract the article? It doesn't make sense. In the end, we found that yes, they could pay up to 2,000 euros. That was great, because our bill was only 2,500, right? We did that. Then I asked one other co-author who had some funds lying around to pay the remaining 500. And then that concluded yesterday. Yesterday, I got an email saying, you have finally paid for everything. I think this paper was published in March, so this has been, you know, a lot of administrative madness at the back of my mind, but it's done now. However, I think that this is a ridiculous amount of money to pay for a paper. 2,500 euros. And this is only the second paper that I am first author on, so the one where I get the bill. My first paper, which was also ridiculously long, maybe I should work on that actually. If I would maybe publish shorter papers, they would be cheaper. I don't know. But my first paper was 3,000 euros. 3,000! But, you know, at the time I was at ETH, so you just send the bill through and they're like, sure, fine, easy. Not so easy this time. Don't write papers if there is no project that's going to pay for it. That's going to be very, very difficult. Or, I've had this before, you're really begging the people to just waive the bill. I've had that with my first paper that I ever published. I'm a co-author on that. It was a student team that had written it, and we were all PhDs and postdocs, and again, it was not written on a project or anything. It was a result of a summer school. So there were no funds whatsoever. None of us had a grant or anything. We got the bill, and then it got sent around and bounced back and forth between all of the co-authors with like, can you pay this? Like, this is a lot of money. Can you pay this? No, I can't. This is a crazy amount of money. I think it was maybe 1,500 euros, maybe something like that. In the end, we emailed them saying, hi, we are very poor students and we have no funds whatsoever, so we cannot pay this bill. Could you please pretend it doesn't exist? And they said yes, because apparently that's how it works. Like, they realize that researchers don't have funds. Why is this a thing? So I am ever so slightly upset that this is a thing in academia. Just the fact that you pay to get it published and don't get anything in return ever. Probably not even a thank you. It's just a weird system. If you tell this to anyone else, they'll just be like, you're mad, why are you doing this? And they would be right. I just wanted to tell you this because it's been administrative stress at the back of my mind, because I was like, how am I going to find 2,500 euros? Like, what? And bear in mind that this journal, where our paper costs 5,000 euros, is one of the cheaper journals. Okay, like it's not that expensive. So yeah, I guess what I want to know, since you know, I'm quite inexperienced, if you will, in the amount of bills that I have received, which is a bad thing for my publication record, but a good thing for my wallet. How much did your papers cost? Does anyone ever have papers that are free or that are, I don't know, in the hundreds? I know there are some journals that are actually really cool that are going towards free publishing so that you don't have to pay, which is great. I'm waiting for the Geodynamics or planetary equivalent for that, because that would be awesome. What are some of the craziest numbers? I know Nature is ridiculous because it asks for like a $10,000 to publish it open access, which means that everyone can read it. $10,000. $10,000. Think about that. Think about the things you could do with $10,000. Maybe in this day and age of not being able to afford a house or, you know, have stable living, a stable career, we could play a game of like, how many papers do you need to publish before you could actually have bought a house? Would be fun, no? Please let me know your thoughts on this, and I will see you next week in another video. Bye!
The minute I read your CV, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender. Your thesis looked so refined. Say, wouldn't you like to know how all the codes are designed? So let me get right to the point. You don't get all the equations that you read. Hey, big spender, spend a little time reading our paper.